Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll discuss about elicitation techniques. Everyone talks. Some people talk too much, and if you know how to listen, not just with your ears, but with a little bit of strategy, you can learn almost anything about someone without ever asking a single blunt question. That, my friend, is elicitation. And it's not just James Bond with a laser watch. It's not some, interrogation room with a light bulb swinging overhead. It's ordinary, everyday chit chat. Because what is the difference between interrogation and elicitation? In interrogation, that person who you're asking do not have any leverage and any choice, and he just forced it to answer. And in everyday life, we don't have leverage. And that's why elicitation makes sense, because it's a more tricky way to get information without even asking it. All right, the trick is that you steer the conversation in such a way that other person feels like they are the one leading it. So why does it work? Simple. People like to feel smart, helpful, important, and unique. And if you give them an excuse to showcase one of those things, they will happily spill information they normally wouldn't. So, let's walk through the greatest hits, the most practical elicitation techniques you can use in daily life. And don't worry, I wouldn't just name them, I will break them down, show you how they work in real life, and even give you phrases you could use tonight if you want to test this on your friends or coworkers. So let's go to the techniques. The first one we will discuss about the false statement, fishing with a mistake on you, or you can say. And this one is almost too easy. You make a statement that is slightly wrong, not absurd, not outrageous, just off enough to trigger someone else inner so-called fact checker. Humans, because wired to correct mistakes, and we hate letting wrong information float in the air. What's the beauty? You don't ask question. You just drop the bait and let them jump on it. Like, for example, you could say the subway here shuts down by 10, right? And local, for example, can reply, no, it's actually open until midnight. Now you got insider about local schedules without sounding like a tourist. Or in a business, you can say, so your system is only compatible with Windows? And that person could reply, actually, no, it's fully compatible with Mac too. And again, the difference between with the direct question, you can see the difference that in elicitation, we asking question, but we asking with already proposed guess, because otherwise you direct question would be like, what kind of operation system you using, right? But instead, we pretending that we know, and after that person fixing us and giving us correct actual information. Why it works? People love to correct because it makes them feel knowledgeable. You're not pressuring them, you're giving them the stage to shine. Okay, the next technique will be the naive opener. Play dumb, get smart. And this one is about leaning into ignorance on purpose. Pretend you don't know how something works or act surprised by something obvious. The other person will often, jump into educate you because it makes them feel like the wise mentor in the conversation. And the best part, the more so-called obvious thing you pretend not to know, the more detailed their answer will be, because they'll want to break it down so even you can get it. For example, you can say, I never figured out how people get away with sneaking an extra bag on planes. And frequent flyer could reply, oh, it's simple. Just put it under your jacket or blend it into carry-on. They hardly ever check. And here we go. You already know how to do that. Or in taxes, you can say, wait, everyone files by April 15. I thought it was in May. And that person who got knowledge can reply, like, for example, no, April 15 is the deadline unless you file for an extension. Then it's October. What works? Humans like feeling like teachers. When you play dumb, you open the door for them to play expert. And most of the time, we see that actually that kind of people's ego do not let them to play dumb, let's say, Okay, the third technique called the third-party reference. And here's the trick. Do not ask about them directly. Blame it on so-called someone else. Mention what you, air quotes, heard from a friend, a colleague, or a random person. The other person's natural instinct will be to set the record straight. This works especially well in professional settings, because nobody wants rumors or misunderstanding floating around about them or their organization. For example, you could say, my friend said your company's shipping costs are ridiculous. And that person could reply, that's not true at all. We actually offer free shipping on orders over $50. Or another example with careers, you can say, someone told me pilots barely earn anything the first few years. Is that really true? And a real pilot can tell you, for example, well, at regional airlines, yeah. But once you with a major airline, the pay is much better. And you see that especially in terms of question when it comes to salary, money, people really don't like to answer this kind of question. And at these contexts, these kind of elicitation techniques are really helpful. And again, here we not just in this technique, we're not just making statement, but we pretending that we got information from someone else, And then again, the same logic behind it. We like our intention to get real information. All right, and why this like the third party reference works, because they don't feel they're giving you privileged information. They're simply correcting misinformation. And again, the same idea that the person who you're asking do not feel that pressure. Okay, the fourth technique called the compliment trap. Compliment is a warm knife that cuts through anyone's defenses. And when someone feels flattered, they want to explain why the compliment is justified. They happily reveal their methods, their habits, and even their secret tools. The trick here is to make the compliment feel genuine and tied to curiosity. For example, you can say, you're always so organized. How do you keep up with all that? And that person who already flattered with your compliment can say, for example, thanks, honestly, I use a spreadsheet and a reminder app. Without them, I would be lost. And here we go. You know what kind of shit this motherfucker using in order to be disciplined. Or another example of compliment trap in social life, you can say, you always look so calm before big presentations. What's your secret? And that person can say, honestly, I meditate for 10 minutes beforehand and fart. Oh, no, just kidding. So again, the idea of compliment trap, that you're making statement and, with a goal to flatter someone's like behavior, skill, and why it works. Why it works, you can ask me. It works because people want to live up to the praise. They will explain exactly how they achieve what you complimented because it feels good to be recognized. And we all like compliments, even though it will sound fake, we still like it. So, technique number 5, the bragging hook. Set up a scenario where the other person gets to show off. You act helpless or impressed, and they jump in with a story that proves how competent, tough, or knowledgeable they are. For example, you could say, I would never survive in New York City. I would get lost immediately. And for example, local can say you back, oh, it's easy once you know the tricks. You just avoid Fifth Avenue during rush hour and you're fine. And here we go. We know how to be be on time during the rush time to avoid some traffic jam. Or another example of the bragging hook with the students. You can say, I don't know how math students survive finals week. I would collapse after one night. And student can reply for you, for example, it's brutal, but I once pulled 3 all-nighters back to back and still passed everything. And why it works? You give them a stage, and most people love it to take it. And it's kind of close to the flattering. And again, at the end of the day, you're getting information that you want to. Okay, tip number 6 in terms of elicitation techniques called the silence gap. This shit really simple but powerful. Let them feel the void. And this one requires patience. People hate silence in conversations. It makes them nervous, so they rush to fill it. If you give them nothing after a vague statement, they'll often expand way beyond what they meant to reveal. For example, them can tell, like, my boss wasn't happy about the report. And you just nodding, staying silent, And again, people do not like silence. And they feel uncomfortable. And here, they filling that gap of silence with the extra information. And in these contexts, they can continue the dialogue and say, well, actually, he tore it apart and threatened to cut my budget. Or let's take some money context. They can tell the vacation was expensive. And you just smile, no reply, just silence. And they continue to speak and say, like nearly 5,000 expenses. You see how powerful it is? Someone saying something, you want to get more information, and you're just sitting and listening. You do not saying any shit. And that's awkward silence make that person talk more. Silence, again, is uncomfortable, and people overcompensate by giving you more details. Okay, that's tip number 7 from elicitation techniques called the reluctant confession. Share to get shared. Humans have this built-in urge for reciprocity. If you share something that feels a little personal, not too heavy, just mildly embarrassing, other person will mirror you and share something similar. For example, you can say, honestly, I sometimes zone out during those endless meetings, and them can tell, same here, I usually just scroll through my phone. Or another example with habits, you can say, I am a fool at remembering the deadlines. And that person can say, do not worry, I missed two just last month. And again, the idea here, you make it safe to confess. They feel obligated to match your vulnerability. And again, you don't have to. The trick is that you don't have to be honest with your confession. Just make it sounds authentic. Okay, tip number 8 in terms of elicitation techniques called the flattery plus curiosity combo. And this one is part compliment, part open-ended curiosity by praising their expertise and following up with a genuine so-called how you push them to reveal their behind-the-scenes secrets. You can say, for example, you're clearly the go-to person here. How do you manage to stay updated with all the new regulations? And they can talk to back like, well, we actually have an internal memo system that tracks changes. Or another finance example would be, I don't know how you always seem to predict the market trends. And they can reply, for example, I've got a guy at Bloomberg who sent me early notes. And the idea here, people want to maintain the expert image you painted of them. And again, it's a combination of complementary, they will share their tools or connections that make them look as good as you think they are. Real life, for example, scenes would be like, let's say, the business negotiation. You can say your competitor said they would do for $100 per unit, but I doubt that's real. And supplier, $100? That's way too low, but we could go down to 115 if you order enough. And without asking directly, you know their floor price. So, you can ask about, and from another perspective about this topic, what's the defense against elicitation? And here's a twist. Once you know these techniques, you will start hearing them in everyday life. That's when you realize at times you're the one being elicited. What's the best defenses? Here's a few tips, advices. First one, be vague, or or sometimes it depends, these kind of statements. The second advice, deflect with humor. Yeah, I pay, like, for example, it's just example. You can say like, yeah, I pay my rent with Monopoly money. So again, when you feel that someone intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter, try to get some sensitive information from you, but you don't want to give away that, one of them, like a technique to give answer without giving answer, would be adding sense of humor. And the first one, let me remember, be vague. In other words, do give answer like not clear answer. And another third advice, redirect the question. And you can say, for example, that's a good one. How about you? I mean, you just complimenting like to the person who you're asking and just like asking the same shit back. And okay, let me give you another example to make it clear. Them can tell you like you must make a ton of money to live in this building, and you can go like, "Yep, my secret is winning at Monopoly every Sunday." Like you not you're not being rude. You're making like you adding some sense of humor, and practically speaking, if you don't want to tell information about your salary, your money that you make, you just like found a way to not give answer about that. And the dark side, these tricks aren't just for fun at bars. Corporate people and other like let's say bad actors rely on them. Casual chat at a conference like, so do you run your service on Linux or Windows? I never know which is safer. Like one of them, like it's like example of this kind of conversation. And if you answer, you just handed them a recount about your infrastructure. And that's why it's important to spot elicitation when it's aimed at you. So again, from like too long didn't read, elicitation from your perspective, very practical and useful. And basically, if we make it very simple, instead of asking direct questions, make some statements, add some compliments, and you can reference to the third part, like even though that third part friend or whatever could be like a fake. And by doing so, you're getting correction and actual real information. And again, elicitation is like offensive and defensive. If you feel that you being the target of elicitation, you have to like in general be careful what kind of information you're giving. And even though it would look like a casual conversation, you gotta think twice before giving some sensitive information. So elicitation in general is a double-edged sword, as you can tell. Use it lightly, and you will come across as a great conversationalist who always seem to learn interesting things. Use it too heavily, and you will sound manipulative. The sweet spot, make people feel good, make them feel smart, and let them talk. Most of the time, they will tell you far more than they realize. And again, remove your ego, play dumb, let other feel important, and just suck information that you want to. So the next time someone says like, wow, how do you even handle all of that? Just pause for a minute. They just curious or they eliciting you? And again, it's not about being paranoid. Just be careful with the words that you're saying, and use elicitation if you want to get some specific information. So I hope that was interesting. Smash the like button, subscribe button, and see you next time.